once again, I want to thank everybody for coming out. And this is Shocklee Entertainment, Tekserve, Ableton Advanced Users Group Meetup. What is a meetup? All right, the meetup is, the reason why we call it a meetup instead of a basic presentation is because how many people out here use Ableton? I want to know. Okay, so the idea is for us to create a situation where we can all co-mingle and collaborate. So the idea is the presentation is just what brings you here. The idea is for you guys to meet everybody. I hope everybody got business cards. Do you have business cards? Okay. The idea is for everybody to meet each other and start some sort of collaborative process. Because as you start to understand, the music business now is probably, as you probably know, is in the hands of yourself. It's now become very independent. And if we're going to make anything out there, the collaboration has to start with us. All right? So one of the reasons why we put this together is so that we wanted to meet all the Ableton users that are out there so that we could start building ideas, whether it's building ideas for a film, or whether it's building ideas for a remix, or if you guys got, you know, an artist that you want some help with. Because I know a lot of times when I'm working in the studio, the first thing I want to look for is I need a guitarist. And I can't find a guitarist, a really good guitarist. And today, you don't have the money to be able to just pay people per hourly rate wages and things of that nature. So the collaboration processes allows us to exchange. So if you're a guitarist and I make beats and you're not really good at making beats, well, you can collaborate and I can give you beats and you can give me some guitar work. This way we can keep our projects going. The other thing that you should also have, how many people have a website? Not that many. You have to understand that in today's era, you guys, everybody should have a website, a blog. Everybody should be in the media business because it's your way of communicating to the rest of the world. And it's also your way of being able to collaborate with people. How many people are on SoundCloud? Okay. You guys should also exchange SoundCloud information as well. And so you should be following each other. Because a lot of times I'm on SoundCloud, I'll see somebody have like, okay, they'll have like, I'm following 8 people. But they want 300 or 1,000 people to follow them. That's not the way it's supposed to work. The way it works is that everybody should follow each other so that we're creating a gigantic network. All right? The idea is for all of us to network into each other. So anyway, the reason why we're here is because we wanted to show off my newfound friend, Afro DJ Mack. And Afro DJ Mack lives out by me, right? We both live on Long Island. And he's been doing a bunch of tutorials and things of that nature. And so he's going to show you his workflow and how he does the things that he do with vocals and live instruments and things of that nature. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give it up to Afro DJ Mack.
Hello. Thank you guys for coming out. This is awesome. I'm really pumped. So what I'm going to show you guys is not necessarily anything inside Ableton, but more like a workflow that you can use that I was kind of always looking for myself. And this kind of took me a long time to figure out, but maybe this will help you out, and maybe you'll say, hey man, you're doing that a very dumb way, and you can give me advice on how I could fix that up. So let me go through my little slideshow. Our mission is to route a bunch of live instruments, virtual instruments, and a microphone into Ableton, map them to some effects that we can use, and route them into 8 audio tracks in my case, for live looping and combining with pre-recorded stuff. So I got some real instruments. I got my OP1, which everybody should get. Don't hate on it. The melodica, you can just kind of use the mic on. iPad, you know, and if I have anything else, maybe a guitar sometimes, but we're keeping it simple tonight. That stuff will all go into the audio interface, and then I control my virtual instruments with, you know, any MIDI controller, really. What I have up here is a launch pad, an APC-40, an MPK Mini, and behind the magic curtain, Soft Step, this foot controller that seems to make noise when I touch it today. Weird. So that's what I'm working with MIDI-wise. And I got my various instruments. You can see that, right? Okay. Now, for simplicity and sanity especially, the APC-40 has 8 tracks. So I'm going to base my live set on 8 tracks of loops and stuff because I don't want to be switching the little box from side to side. So inside my live set are these 8 tracks. And this is like the core of the set. I put my loops in there, I put my beats, you know, whatever else, synths. And I also have these set up to receive audio that I can record onto at the same time. So, you know, you can very easily get involved in like having like 16 tracks and all that stuff. For me, I knew if I was going to be like moving this box around, I was going to mess up a lot. So I'm going to eliminate that by just keeping it simple, which I guess is a theme of this. Keep it simple so you know what you're doing. So I got my real and virtual instruments, and I route these into an audio track called Live Instruments. And when I open up this guy, let me show you first this one. These are all my instruments. I have some drums. I got this launch pad has a whole bunch of stuff. Video game and movie samples. You know, just a bunch of instruments that I can switch through on here using an instrument rack by switching on the chain selector right here. So if you notice, that's what's moving around when I push these buttons. Got my MPK Mini, and that has 2 different instruments on it right now. This is a lot of sound effects and noises, good for transitions. And we got a synth there and a synth here. Some of my Nintendo sounds. If you guys want those sounds, I have them on my website. My OP1 runs into this track. The iPad runs into this. This one I'm not using today, but this is sending MIDI to a, you know, any kind of synth you may have through the external instrument plug-in here. And then my mic right here. So all of these are going into, except the mic, are going into this live instrument track. And what I just have on this track is a bunch of audio effects mapped to my MIDI controllers. And here's my audio effect rack right here. There it is. And when I play something on here, like say that noise, there's some effects on here I can fool around with. Filter. And that stuff applies to all of these different effects. Chorus. Sorry. So all these things are going through these main effects. And what I do here is send the output of that audio track with the effect rack on it to the input of these 8 audio tracks. So this allows me, and you'll notice if you look on the little inputs here, if I enable, say, track 5, I'm receiving sound on that. Do you see that? Little secret you got to do, though, is just make sure you have it to monitor off, because you don't want to receive the input through your effect track and then through there. It's going to get too loud. So this will only play, say I record my... Now I hear it through there. Right? Make sense so far? Okay, cool. So I do that for 6 of the 8 tracks. For the other track, I use my vocals. My vocals are going through its own separate track, which is just running right through my master, and that's right here. So on this track, I have a delay. I have, well, I better go over here. This is an auto-tune, do-do-do-do-do-do. I can sing. And I also
can play around with the pitch of my voice, sound, you know, a little tougher if I need to. Come at me.
Or I could sound like this, you know?
So that's the auto-tune part. I got like the radio voice, which is just, you know, filtering out the highs and the lows, keeping the mids. This is a reverb and low pass filter. A beat repeat, which gets faster as I turn the knob. And my other half of the beat repeat is the pitch, which I go, wait. And you can kind of see it right over here. As I turn this, the grid changes. If my little cursor's not in the way. And that's the pitch. You can amuse yourself for hours that way, I promise. So all of that is going to this MIDI controller, my APC40. And it's to one of the audio tracks, which is this last one here, which I dubbed Sample Mic. And that just allows me to record whatever I'm singing onto a track if I want to. So let's see, let's go back here. So my live instruments rack starts out with a looper hooked up to my soft step. And this button is for record, this one's for clear. So I could be, let's see, you know, playing, we'll do something here. So, you know, whatever, that's looping. I have this set up so that it's before my effects. So since your hands are probably full playing something, now I can play around my effects, you know? And I can say record it to track 6, mess around with my effects. Hit that, and then I'll clear it. Now what I've recorded is just looping with those effects recorded right to the audio. Not that that's a great musical example, but you know, you get the idea. One of the little things I've decided to do is put the looper before the effects, because often I want to tweak it after I play it and then record it. So this way I'm kind of recording my effects right to my track. And all those audio effects are just done with my MPK Mini. My mic rack is very similar, except I run it through the effects first and then to the looper. So I might be doing a little singing here, and I'll hit my looper, and now I'm doing this. And now I'm doing this. I'm recording the effect right into the looper, because, you know, I might want to harmonize and that. Now I'm doing this. Now I'm doing this. And now I'm doing this. Would I not record that? And now I'm doing this. And now I'm doing this. There's the other guy. And now, little bit of advice. If you're gonna map this little looper button to a controller like your foot controller, I also recommend mapping that same button to the actual looper itself, because, you know, I might be like somewhere here in my track, and if I start hitting my looper, it pops up. and I can see, okay, I'm recording now. You know, it's not like a guessing game. My looper, it pops up, and I can see, okay, I'm recording now. Shut up. So, you know, it's just a good visual, because you push these buttons sometimes, you don't know if you actually pushed them or not, and then you think you're looping something, and then you stop. And that happens, and, you know, it's just bad. So that's, you know, my advice for looper. So those loops can now be recorded right into any track. Okay, so that's kind of the idea. And in a second, I'll just kind of show you how I do it live so you get an idea. But just a couple tips. Plan it out a little bit. Draw some pictures. I drew like my MIDI controllers, and I drew little boxes. I'm like, this is going to be my delay in this. Just so I could plan it out. Think about like where my things are going to be. Next tip is don't overplan. You know, get an idea and then start doing it, start mapping it, and you'll figure out what to do along the way. You'll change your mind, and you'll realize, oh, I should put that here. So it's a good idea not to overplan, just get in there. I always think of my setup as a work in progress, so this way I don't get stuck trying to make the perfect setup. The idea is to make music, not the perfect setup. So it's a work in progress. Always save as before any major changes. And no major changes before the gig, because then you're going to get up here and forget what this button does now, and that's a nightmare. And the last thing is kind of what I said before, just don't lose the plot. You're trying to make music, not the perfect setup, I think anyway. And I know I've wasted a lot of time. I could have been recording songs trying to make this all perfect, and I just don't recommend you do that. So let's see, I think that's the end. Yeah, I'm going to put a PDF of the slideshow, but this will be all on streaming and archive. So, but if you want any free racks and little tutorials, you can check out my site, AfroDJMac.com. Do you have any questions before I kind of show you a little? As far as what? Oh, my CPU, man, I don't know the first question. This is a relatively new MacBook Pro. It's 2011. I did just jack up the RAM to 16 gigs, because you can do that on these. They say you can't, but you can. I don't know the CPU, though, exactly. But Ableton right now, I'm doing 8, so I'm not getting all 16 gigs anyway. So, you know, I guess 4 is what I'm really utilizing. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. Good question. I left out a channel. My other channel is my drums. These drums right here are controlled right here. You know, I can play them like this. I have an arpeggiator. So I sound like a good finger drummer. And the effects are also applied here. You know, there's a little delay. That's the instrument. Yeah. Oh, okay. The question was, what about the other track? I said I had 6 for my instruments and another one for the mic. So what's the 8th? That's for my drums, and that's right here. So my drums get recorded onto this track, right? This first track. This first track actually goes to a little drum dummy track, which I think Ben is going to talk about dummy tracks a little, but it's just a way for me to apply effects on it. So if I have a drum track playing, I got these beat repeats, a little reverser, Max for Live plugin. So, and then I have, you know, the effects that will play around with my drums too. So it's for drums. Yeah. The effects are all inside Ableton. Yeah, I'm using all Ableton plugins. They just run smoother, so yeah. Uh-huh. The question is, do I hard map effects to my APC40 when I'm playing live? I do, yeah. You know, I could have it latch on to different effects, but in all honesty, I mean, if you know me, I make all these live effect racks. I'm not using the effect racks as much when I go live. I'm more using these global effects over any instrument I happen to drop on the track. So if you look at my MPK rack here, you know, I got a Nintendo sound and a Moog Minotaur sound. I can tweak with these in here, but for the most part, these are just being affected by these guys here, which are global for anything that's going through. So, yeah, Ethan. Yeah, am I using any of the mapping out of the box? The answer is yeah. You know, all these faders are normal. The clips, the launches are all normal. I have changed the different banks up here to do various things, volume on the different instruments, you know, whatever I felt I needed. I'm never really panning anything left and right, so I overwrote those. But some I do keep, you know. I do keep some of them. Depends what you want to do, I guess. Yeah. The way I have it set up now, if I'm playing live, I'm not recording any MIDI clips. I'm just recording audio clips at this point for live purposes. But, you know, of course, there's... am I using any MIDI quantize? No. One thing I do, which, you know, I don't know, this might be a little bit beyond the scope here, is I have my launch pad set up to be a step sequencer through, I'd have to find out exactly where I got it. It's really good, but I'll put it on my website. I put it on my website already. It's on there. About a month back. It's not. It's a remote script. Yeah. It's based off of that. The guy said he based it off of that, which is a great one too. So, do you want me to demonstrate quickly? All right. Yes. Okay, so I'm gonna just, you know, this is usually the first track I play live, and I started out with a little like arpeggiated thing here. I arpeggiate it because it stays in time, which is nice. And when the first thing you're trying to do, you want it to be in time. Otherwise, everything gets messed up. So I just kind of do this for a little while, then I drop in some percussion. And then I'll drop in like my drum. Play around with that sound a little. And then some vocals. I guess my best just have to work. So that's kind of like just, oh, thank you. It's just a combination of all the things, you know. You can set up as many things as you want. Something I've done, which is really handy, it comes in like this next section of the song, is a vocoder. got my samples over here.
Something out there waiting for us.
And, you know, then I just kind of mosey on out of this song. A little effect, you know, transition. You know, this song I like to just change the vocal
Nice and low. You know? I know you're moving slow motion because it's the only way you go. I understood it wouldn't be more than myself, but oh no, baby, go. Such a shame when you try those things on me now. That's a lesson I should learn on the weekdays. Oh no, baby, oh. There you little instrument.
Something out there waiting for us.
I'm just playing around with the beat repeat. Yeah. So, you know.
You can go crazy. Yeah, I mean, that's the gist. But the workflow, the idea is, it's centered around these 8 tracks. Let me come out of the Grand Canyon here. And these 8 tracks are my main things, where my clips are. I got inputs for each instrument, and they all run into this one audio track with effects. And that audio track is then being fed into all of these 8, where I can record any clip into there as I like. That's the basic idea. Yes, sir. What's up? Oh, yeah, and as a matter of fact, what I just did does. The question is, do I change the BPM from scene to scene? And I do. And it's just by putting the BPM into the name of the scene. You know, this is 130 BPM, all right together, nice and tight like that. And you'll get this little orange triangle. So, you know, this song, 130. And this guy is 98. Much stuff. Yeah, actually just did a tutorial on that online, on my site, yeah. And you can do that with meter as well. And you just put the fraction in, 3, 4, 6, 8. Yeah. Yeah, you can go kind of nuts with it. And it'll change the metronome, you know, emphasize the 1 differently. Yeah. Yes? You know, producing is kind of what anything goes. I've been trying to stick more and more, you know. There's so many toys you can get out there. You can go nuts. You can buy everything. You can download 1 billion apps now. I think they could probably give us the real number here. But you get lost in that. So I'm trying to, you know, I like what I got. I know Push is coming out, and they're going to get me on that. I know it. But after that, you know, yeah, I like to kind of keep it the same as much as possible. Sometimes even just half of this or one of these or something like that. Yeah. Hello. Yes, sir. Okay. Okay, the first question is, what am I using for pitch shift? And that is the one plugin that is not an Ableton plugin that I'm using. It's Nectar, Isotope Nectar. It has a tracking section and a mixing. I think tracking and mixing is what it has. And one of them, the tracking, is low latency. And that's what I have. And it has a
Foreman filter.
It's making it sound pretty bad, I think.
Yeah. So you can really mess the voice up with that. And my buffer size is 100 today. Yeah. I don't know. I'm lucky. I feel like I'm getting away with murder on that. But yeah. That took a long time to figure out, the buffer size. That was just trial and error. That test tone thing they have is pretty handy too. Yes?
From a creative standpoint, how do you approach production and composition? Are you usually just experimenting until it sounds good?
From a creative perspective, how do I approach composition with Ableton? Well, you know, it's different every time. But a lot of times it starts with sound design. I find a sound I really like. I play guitar, really. That's my real instrument. So I might make up a song on guitar. And then now I'm going to make it on here. It's kind of, the inspiration depends on the day, you know. And I recommend mixing that up a lot. Because if you get stuck in the same thing all the time, you know, there's a balance. You either get stuck in the same thing and make the same kind of songs but get really good at it. Or you can go on the other end and try something new every time and be okay at a million different things. So I'm trying to be somewhere in the middle, I guess. Hank?
No, that was great, man.
Thank you.
I thought that was incredible. Let's give it up for Afro DJ Mack, y'all.
Thank you.
Give it up for Ethan Hein.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. So one of the things that I do is teach music. I've been teaching private guitar lessons for, 15 years now. And Ableton Live is actually the best thing that has ever happened to guitar teachers. I think that it's a thing that all music teachers should be using, whether they're doing something related to electronic music or totally unrelated to electronic music. And before I get into specifically how I use Ableton and for what, I just want to talk to you guys a little bit about the sorry state of musical education in the world today. How many of you guys learned whatever it is that you do in your musical lives formally in school? Yeah, and how many of you just kind of figured it out sitting in front of your computer and on YouTube? Yeah, so we're looking at about a 50-50 ratio here, right? And that's pretty bad. Like, imagine if 50% of people who came out of school had to learn how to read by themselves because they just weren't learning it in school. Like, wouldn't we look at school and be like, wow, school is terrible, you know? Like, if you want to learn to read, half the time you have to just do it on your own. I think that's pretty much where music is right now. And it's not just me that thinks that. So I'm a graduate student at NYU, and I'm interested in music education generally and how technology can make it better. And so I went to talk to the head of NYU's very prestigious, wonderful music education program where they train music teachers, the music teachers of tomorrow. And I went to the head of this program, very nice old gentleman named John Gilbert, 70 years old. And I was asking him, so listen, I'm really interested in this field. What should I learn about? Who's really doing the exciting stuff? And he said, honestly, don't waste your time. There is nothing good going on in, I'm not talking about at the, university level. I'm talking about 6th grade, middle school, that kind of level. He's like, it's terrible. They're stuck 200 years ago. So please, just go figure out your thing. It can't be any worse. So that was depressing, but then also emboldening. I feel like, here we all are. Music is changing really, really fast, much faster than the schools can keep up with. And so it's kind of up to us to, mutually peer educate. I mean, that's how we all sort of figured this stuff out anyway, right? So with that in mind, I'm going to take you through the way that I would teach a particular song to my students. I have, in fact, used this particular song. You will recognize it.
I remember when I lost my mind.
Right, we all know and love this song.
Even your emotions have an echo in so much space.
Okay, so who doesn't love this song, right? And it's a wonderful song for beginners because it's not actually all that hard. There are only 5 chords in it total. It's pretty repetitive, but there's a lot of music packed in there, right? Especially, it gets to the bridge and all of a sudden it gets major, and you're like, whoa, where did that come from? I mean, you can really learn a lot about music from it. Here's the problem for guitar players. It's in C minor. Who here is a guitar player? Yeah. How much do you love C minor? Right? Ooh, an E flat, even better, right? Yeah, an A flat, terrific. Those sound great on the guitar. So this is no good. And in the past, if a person wanted to learn this song, what would they have done, right? Well, they would have this recording, and it's in a terrible key. Maybe if they were really clever, they'd put a capo on their guitar at the 3rd fret, but now you have this whole another level of math to figure out where you're like, I'm playing A minor, but it's on the wrong fret, and it's up a thing, and I don't really know what I'm doing here. Beginners hate capos, and well, they should. They're confusing. Okay, maybe I could go to the store and get the sheet music if it exists and if I can read music. And I don't know if you guys have seen these official sheet music renditions of popular songs. It's always done by some Juilliard student to make extra money, and they do the sort of generic keyboard arrangement of it as if you were going to gather around the piano and sing it like it was 1942. And it never has the actual parts of the song that you actually want to learn, if you can find it, if you can even read it. Okay, so then you're like, oh, I'll go on the internet where they have all this incredible tablature. And I'm sure you can find tablature for it, and I can guarantee you that it's going to be wrong, right? So what they say in the jazz world is all the answers to your questions are in your record collection. And that is true, right? The only place to get the real information about the music that you want to learn how to play is from recordings. And the beautiful thing about the world in which we live now is that we can take the recordings and make them much, much easier to learn from. So the very first thing that I would do with a guitar student who wanted to learn crazy is just pitch shift the whole thing down to A minor. And also mute the C minor track and unmute the A minor track. So it sounds a little peculiar, right? But it's still recognizable as music. It's got the same vibe, it's got the same energy. And what I've written underneath here is the bass line. And if you're a guitar player, you'll look at these chords, A minor, C, F, E7, A major when you get to the bridge. piece of cake, right? This is all the standard 15. This is all the stuff you learn in your first like 3 weeks of guitar lessons. Now we're talking about something that a person could really get into and not get too frustrated. So the next problem with learning from recordings is tempo, right? So you're, oh great, I have this recording, but it's going by at this incredible tempo. Like beginners can't keep up with it. So another beautiful thing we get to do in the current world is take the tempo down from 111.91, which is not that fast, but definitely way too fast for a beginner.
I remember when I lost my mind.
All right, and now it really sounds weird, right?
There was something so
But now we're at a tempo where somebody who is not an experienced musician could realistically keep up with it, right?
in so much space.
I am not a big fan of the metronome. I don't know. I've never met anybody who's like, yeah, I love the metronome. I feel like I'm in the pocket when I play with the metronome. No, right? The metronome's terrible. You want to play along with like a groove, and in a perfect world, you'd have like, a really solid drummer on hand, and you could be like, yeah, could you play the groove from Crazy at about 75 BPM for like the next 3 hours while I learn it? That would be nice, but right. So much better to just do it here. And the other nice thing is looping.
I remember when I lost my mind. I remember when I lost my mind.
Okay, so musically, right, not something you'd want to necessarily listen to, but for a beginner guitar player, that is plenty of information right there. That is a good couple of lessons right there. Because, those of you who are more advanced guitar players know guitar playing is not about the left hand, it's about the right hand, right? Like, what's the difference between the guy at Open Mic Night and Neil Young? Or, Dylan, or any of those guys? They're playing the same standard 15 chords, but the guy at Open Mic Night can't keep time, right? He has no rhythm, and like he only has that one strumming pattern. What makes Neil Young so powerful, or Bob Marley, or any of these guys who play these basic guitar chords is the groove, right? Neil Young can groove, Bob Marley can groove. That's what really makes it interesting. And groove is a hard thing to teach. I mean, I think I spend about 80% of my time with students on groove. Because chords, get a book, like memorize them. They're all on Wikipedia. Like that, you don't need a teacher for that. But groove, you really do. And if the student is of the Caucasian persuasion, it might be more like 90–95% of the time. Because the first thing that happens is like, okay, great, I can play A minor. Now I'm going to play it as fast as possible until it doesn't sound musical anymore. And what I'm constantly trying to get people to do is play slower, right? Because the point is not to play as fast as possible. The point is to play well. So if I put on this, they get it real quickly. It's not a complicated rhythm. And then they want to start speeding up, but no. They still want to speed up. I'm like, no, because you're still not playing it right. And I'll let it loop for 40 minutes, 45 minutes, until they're in the pocket and they really have it, right? Then they're ready for the next chord. And I'm not vindictive. Like, I'm not trying to make music lessons boring. Like, I really believe that, like, you should be able to enjoy yourself at any level of musicianship. Like, you shouldn't have to wait a year before it starts to be pleasurable, because that's why everybody gives up, right? It's like that whole first year, nothing you're doing sounds good or sounds like anything, and everybody finds it annoying. It's because you're playing too fast, right? And you're playing stuff that's too hard, and you can't actually really hang. So all you have to do is play something that's really slow and really repetitive, and yeah, maybe not that interesting, but you could really make it sound good. And, so now we're going to do this little transition from A minor to C.
I remember when I lost my mind.
Okay. It doesn't seem like a very big deal, but for, what all beginner guitarists do is they're like, yeah, A minor, oh, here comes this chord change, and there's a long pause while they figure out where to put their fingers. Yeah, no good, right? They got to be able to keep time steadily. So, what I would do, what I do with them is, okay, put on this loop.
I remember when I lost my mind.
And if they're hesitating on that change, we take it slower. And if they're still hesitating, we take it slower, you know? And then, but the beauty is, once they've got it, right? Once it sounds good, it sounds good. You know, and then we do that with each of the pairs of chords. I'm not gonna, you know, put you through it in real time or anything, but right, if they can get from C to F smoothly, if they can get from F to E7, then you put all that stuff together and all of a sudden they've got a song and they're not just stumbling through it, they're playing it in a way that really sounds like music. Slow music, but you know, those of you, you know, real musicians know like speed is not exciting, right? What's exciting is you sounding good, you know? And again, 111 BPM, which is the actual tempo of the song, is not really all that fast, but everybody gets excited about this song because it's awesome, right? Or like all those Michael Jackson songs that we love so much, you know, Billie Jean and Wanna Be Starting Something, they're all like 100, 110, 120. They're not that fast, but like they fill the dance floor because they're great. And a lot of people think, oh, like, okay, now we want to make it more energetic. We got to make it faster. No. We just got to make it better. All right, so as you can see, I've got this color coding system here, and a thing that I like very much about pretty much any program, but Ableton certainly, is that it actually kind of makes for better music notation than music notation, right? And this color scheme is totally arbitrary. I made it up. I can't remember why, and have been using it for years, and now it just seems like an obvious thing. But yellow for intro and outro, blue for verses, green for chorus, purple for bridge. This song doesn't have a breakdown section, but if it did, it would be orange. If there's a pre-chorus, you know, different shade of green. If the verse has like 2 distinct halves to it, different shades of blue. I mean, it doesn't really matter, but you know, I could teach anybody in here how to play the chords to any of the sections of the song in, you know, a short amount of time. But what would be much harder is remembering what order the whole song is in, right? And even for very advanced musicians and even for professionals, this is where you get into trouble. I mean, how many hours of band practice have you spent where you're like, wait, God damn it, is it the bridge after the second chorus or the third chorus? And then what happens? Is it the guitar solo after the bridge? You know, it's a nightmare. And like, I would love to live in a world where people would just like put their stuff in Ableton, you know, grid it out, color code it, screen cap it, print it, and bring that to rehearsal, right? And everybody could just read off of it. And in the guitar lesson, you know, they could just watch the thing scroll along. Like it's so much better than sheet music, right? They know where they are. It's totally intuitive. A 3-year-old can understand the relationship between this line moving and the sound, right? So the next level here, and this is a little bit more labor intensive for the teacher. I don't do it all the time, but I would like to be doing it more, is to transcribe the bass line in MIDI, which for this song is very easy because the whole song, the bass line is just the same pattern. Dun, 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 dun. Right, so all I had to do was figure out that one little bit just by, you know, looping one bar and with the keyboard. And I'm not an incredible keyboard player or anything, but, you know, once you sort of approximately have it, then you just move it around the grid and you're good, right? And then all I had to do is take this little loop, copy, paste, shift it up and down the appropriate amount, and great, we got the bass line for the whole song. And I'm a great lover of MIDI piano roll, like so much better than music notation, right? Because first of all, if you zoom in a little bit, Ableton is telling you the names of the notes, right? It's not a bunch of dots and you're like, okay, every good boy deserves fudge. So this is, okay, it's an A, right? It just tells you. It's very intuitive, like, oh, a higher note, you know, a lot higher. My only complaint, my only wish is that it doesn't show you the functions of the notes. Like, wouldn't it be nice if you could just tell it, okay, this note right here is the root, and then as you moved other notes around, it would just sort of automatically color code them to be like, and this is the 5th, this is the flat 7th, this is the major 7th. You know, like, it seems like it would take somebody like 20 minutes who knew what they were doing to write that. I don't know, hopefully somebody in this room will be able to do that and make some money off it. But so once I've done that, you know, it's a little bit time consuming, but once you've done it, now you can just label your little MIDI regions with the names of the chords, and now you have a beautiful interactive dynamic chord chart. And you can also once the student is getting a little better, turn off the track and just play them the bass line. You know, and see how they're doing with their groove now, right? Now that they don't have everything. Do you like this bass sound, by the way? I think it's... yeah, I do not design my own sounds. This is one of the presets. Okay, and I do like to do this kind of thing in the presence of the student, partially because, you know, it's nice to get paid to, like, do your work, but also because it's very instructive for them to see how this is done, right? They, like... I feel like at this point, the skill of learning how to figure out what's going on in a recording is like the most important skill a musician can have, right? Because again, for most of the stuff that we all like, nobody's gonna hand you sheet music, ever, right? You're gonna have to just, you know, you're gonna be given a recording and you're gonna have to figure it out. And so they might as well start right at the beginning, seeing how that works. But then also I don't have to do it on my own time, which is even better. Now for this song, I went above and beyond, and I actually transcribed the melody into MIDI. So now get ready for some comedy. Okay, it doesn't sound amazing, right? But this is super valuable because, you know, there's only so far you can slow an audio recording down or change its pitch before it starts to sound completely ridiculous and annoying. MIDI, right? You know, do we want to do it at 35 beats per minute? Okay, we can do it, like, and it'll still sound okay. But the more valuable thing about putting something into MIDI is, first of all, you can see it on the screen, which is nice, but Ableton has this thing, and I've never seen in any other MIDI sequencer, and I think it's the most wonderful feature of the entire program, which is this, fold. And when you hit it, it collapses the whole piano roll down to just the notes that are being used. And this is actually a super powerful thing for people who are novice musicians, because now suddenly we have this collection of notes. We know that they all sound good together. And if I would say, hey, why don't we, you know, write a new melody for Crazy? And we're only going to use these notes, no matter what we do. You know, if I move like this over here and I move, you know, this over here, doesn't matter. It's going to sound good, right? Well, I won't put that to the test by actually playing it, but we know it's going to sound good. There's a further thing. If you know a little music theory, see on the side of the screen, it tells you, okay, this melody consists of G, A, C, D, and E, which is the A minor pentatonic scale or the C major pentatonic scale. This is a great opportunity to talk about what is a pentatonic scale. Why do all these notes sound so good together? Why is it that I can't possibly do anything wrong if I stick to these 5 notes? You know, and I might say, okay, like, go write a completely new melody that has nothing to do with Crazy, but I'm going to leave it in fold mode so that no matter what you do, it's going to sound good. This is very empowering for people, right? This idea that, like, wow, on my 3rd lesson, I could write my own song and it actually sounds pretty decent. Powerful, powerful stuff. That really helps people, you know, motivate through those boring hours and hours and hours and hours of practice. Yeah, and then the last thing is just being able to send somebody home with loops to practice over, right? Again, forget the metronome. Like, you gotta have a recording to play over. And if I can say, okay, I'm just gonna like splice you together this part of Crazy that you're having trouble with, just this, you know, this transition from this chord to this chord at 65 beats per minute, you know, for the first 2 minutes, it'll be the track all slowed down and distorted sounding, and then for the next 2 minutes, it'll just be the MIDI, and I'll, you know, make it like 96 bars long exactly so that you can put it in your iTunes on, you know, on infinite loop. You know, that is going to be much more valuable practice time than like okay, and then right? It's going to force him to play in time. It's going to force him to have energy. It's going to force him to have a groove. If I want to, here, we'll just play the, let's go back to the actual song at its actual tempo for 1 second, or closer to its actual tempo. This, right? This is the most exciting thing that happens in the whole song music-wise. Surprise, major, right? So what I might do is just take this chunk here, the first bar of the chorus, A minor, and this chunk, or the first two bars rather, and this chunk, the first two bars of the bridge, A minor, A major, and just put it on a loop and let them go back and forth. Let them really feel intuitively what is the difference between major and minor. Later on, we'll get into the semitones, right, and what the difference is between a major third and a minor third. But they don't need to know all that before they can really feel it in here. After they feel it in here, that's the time to hit them with the the abstract terminology, right? So yeah, I think that's it. If you guys have questions, I'm happy to answer them. All right, so let's go to the melody and the bridge, which is a little bit more complicated because it has C sharp in it instead of in addition to just C, because it's got that major third. So this is going to be a slightly more complicated collection of notes. This is not like a real scale, but we do know from listening to Crazy, this combination of notes does sound good, and even though it's not an official scale, what is a scale really? It's just a collection of notes that sound good together, right? So yeah, I mean, I think it's always kind of cool to see just what you get from actual music. You can always do the formal theory later, yeah. I actually didn't even hear it. Can you ask me again? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm just gonna, all right, no promises, but I'm gonna solo the melody, and I'm just gonna pretty much randomly move the pitches around, and we'll see what we get. Oops, I deleted that one. That's not what we wanted to do. Okay, it's not like a masterpiece, but like we could like shift, we could turn it into something, it's kind of interesting. You got that chromatic walk up from C to C sharp to D. You could really make something out of that. Yeah, absolutely. Wow, I must have covered it really thoroughly. All right, well, listen, thank you very much for having me. It's a tremendous honor to be in the presence of all of you real Ableton geniuses. I'm looking forward to learning more from you.
Let you really know what's going on, and Ben, take it away.
Hey guys, so is this loud enough? I feel like I'm a lot quieter. So thank you guys so much for coming out. I should really start this by saying one thing. So I was gonna originally talk about clip automation and how to use clip envelopes to do all kinds of crazy things and dummy clips, and I'd still like to cover some of that. However, something really cool happened between when we first set up this event and now after the hurricane we're getting to do the event. So the guys at Ableton were really nice and said that it would be okay if I showed off a little bit of the live beta. But before I go any further, I want to warn people and prepare them. This is a beta. So there may be things that you see that don't exist in the final version. They may work a different way. There may be some bugs. We want there to be bugs. We want to find them now and get rid of them so they aren't there later when the full version comes out. And I should also take a moment to set this up and say that this presentation is also a little beta, because I haven't really had the beta that long. So I do apologize in advance. So I'm actually going to start off with showing off a couple of the things in Live 9, and then I'll go back and we can look at clip envelopes and stuff like that, because people are probably really excited to see this. So first things, you know what? Actually, no, because the first feature in Live 9 is that you can record clip envelopes. So we're going to go from the very beginning. For those of you that don't know what a clip envelope is at all, it's one of my favorite features in Ableton Live. I had a chance to talk to some of the people that worked at Ableton about a year ago, and I was like, what I really want in Live 9, I want to be able to record clip envelopes. So I am like totally thrilled that they have added this. So what is a clip envelope? So here's a drum loop that I will make much quieter. So I have some effects on this drum loop that I can turn on and do all kinds of crazy things in real time if I want. I can filter this out. I can put some delay on it. Let's show you a quick tip here, actually. If any of you don't know, the delay in Ableton has a little secret hiding in it here. If you've never seen this, there are 3 different ways to use this delay. Most of you, when you first set the delay up, you're going to be in fade mode, where when you change the delay time, the previous delayed sound fades out and the new delay time comes in. If you right-click right here on the title bar, you can switch from fade to repitch, and this makes the delay feel a lot more like a tape delay. This lets you actually slow things down and speed things up. Much more like tape used to back in the day. Let's actually, Oh, not the feedback. There we go. So in repitch mode, you get to hear that nice tape sound as things speed up and slow down. So there's all sorts of stuff in here that I can tweak in real time to change the way this beat sounds. What if I want to automate this? What if I want this stuff to happen over and over again in a prepared way? This is where clip envelopes come in. So the whole idea behind a clip envelope is here in session view, I can click on any clip in the arrangement, and I see the audio like I'm used to. There are these 3 little buttons down here that hide and show more information about the clip you're looking at. And this third one here with the E on it brings up all the envelopes, which is where we'll see the clip envelopes. So I'm going to make this a little bigger so it's a little easier to see, and we'll zoom in a little bit. So this third column right here for envelope will actually let me set automation specifically in this clip in session view. So for example, if I wanted to have that filter open and close, I could go right to this menu and I could say, choose my effect rack, and I could pick the parameter I wanted to affect on my effect rack. And then if I wanted, I could go grab the pen tool that moved way over here. And I could draw in some change. And it works just like automation does in Arrange View, except that I can have a different set of automation for every loop. So I can switch to a different version of this same loop that no longer has that automation in it. And I can go back and forth between those really quickly. One of my favorite uses for this years ago was to go right in here to the clip automation and choose to control the volume of the clip. And use this to do things like make the drums simpler. So now I've got the drum loop broken down. And right underneath it, I have exactly the same file where all of those elements come back in again. So I would use this all the time to be able to record a loop off of a drum machine and actually have the kick, the snare, and the hat all in the recording, and then be able to take that recording and make simpler versions of it. I can take this and use this to turn the volume down just for all the snares, or just all the kick drums and so on, and create variation that I can really quickly move through. So that's a really cool feature. That was really awesome on its own, but what I really wanted to see was I really wanted to get to record these in a performance. And that is what they've added in Live 9. So a lot has changed here, but the main things to have a peek at are there's this new little record button hiding up here. There's a little button. I should open this up here. Let's open this info view up and see if we've got info automation for all of these. So now we've got this automation arm, and we've got this re-enable automation, and we've got a little record here. That's the session record button. The way that works, I am going to go in here and look at this effect rack. Oh, let me take this. There's still some automation on this channel. Let me go take that out so that you get to see the way this works. By the way, if you want to get rid of this stuff, If you get rid of the pencil tool, you can select this area of the audio and hit delete, and it'll erase your automation, which is really helpful if you don't like what you did. So now we don't have any automation on this drum again. It's a nice simple drum loop. So where this gets really cool is now I can come over here and view the effect itself, and I can arm this to record. Wait a minute. We'll report that one later. So I'm going to arm this one to record, and while this track, oh, I know why I did that. So while this track is recording, I actually have the ability to come in and grab these effects and tweak them in real time. And if I don't like what I did, I can just grab the fader, grab the knob, and re-record new automation. And really quickly build up new changes, new ideas, and a pattern. So the next version here doesn't have any of that. If I go ahead and click in to this to view the automation now, all this has been recorded. If I click on this menu, it'll let me see anything that's been automated, and I can see all the parameters for that effect that have automation. If there's too much here, I can also click this little show only adjusted envelopes, and now I get a much shorter menu here. And I can go in and see all of these. I can still open the pen tool up, and I can edit these and do weird things if I want, but I'm not stuck using the pen. For example, I probably really would rather I hadn't recorded the amount of delay. So I'm going to just go in and wipe that out. Oops. So that beat's gotten really weird really fast. Anytime I want, I can jump to the next track. And I have a new track here with none of that modulation going on. I can arm it to record. Oop, this is my fault. Okay, so there's one more thing I should show that's pretty awesome about this. Let me go ahead and make a new one, take another one of these beats. And let me go ahead and get rid of this automation. So this has all been really cool. The only weird thing about it is that you so far have been limited to the automation being the same length as the loop. So I'm playing back a 2-bar loop. I was able to record 2 bars worth of automation, and that's all I got. One of the great things about clip envelopes is there's this little button here marked linked. And if you untick it, you get an unlinked loop. And an unlinked loop can be as long as you want it to be. So I could take that 1 bar worth or 2 bars worth of a drum beat, and I can actually record 8 bars worth of automation. Maybe I want to get, maybe I want to make like a really slow fade out on that. Maybe I want it to like. And then bring it back in. just showed something that doesn't work yet. We'll get there. If I can't do it with the recording, I can certainly draw it in. So let's go ahead and make this have a 4-bar sweep in it. We're going to tell it here at 1 to start the sweep. And we're going to say take, whoop. Take 4 bars to sweep slowly down. So I still only have 1 bar worth of audio, or 2 bars worth of audio, but I've actually been able to record 4 bars worth of automation. You could record 16, 32, anything you want. For me, what this is going to be really amazing for is I'm not going to have to draw this in. I'm going to be able to grab my controller, twist the knobs, start to create musical ideas on the fly, capture them. If I get a bar worth of an idea I like, I can keep it. And I can really quickly create short chunks of ideas. So the one thing that AfroDJMac mentioned earlier that I didn't talk about, or that he mentioned but he didn't really cover too much, because I think probably to be nice to me, he was going to let me cover it, was this idea of dummy clips. Dummy clips is this idea that has been around for as long as clip envelopes have, and it's a really neat trick. The idea behind a dummy clip is that you can actually have live audio going through Ableton Live, and you can put a clip on the track, and you can even play that clip. So this is a clip full of silence. We're listening to a bar of nothing. But the cool thing about that is that that clip actually lets you use clip envelopes to control any of the parameters on the track you're listening to. So I can draw in a pitch change in here to my live vocal, and as I record it,
So
I can grab any of these parameters anytime I want, and I can tell it to do something else. I can tell it to ignore the automation that's happening and just go back to 0 so that people can hear what I'm saying. And then anytime I want, they've got this nice re-enable automation button over here that works a lot like the back to arrange button used to work. So anytime I click it, go so yeah, it lets you go straight back to what you were doing before. Arrange view will allow you to do all kinds of cool things in terms of capturing automation over time for a finished piece of music. But to be able to use all this automation on stage, to be able to change your mind and have the same bass line with like 17 different filter sweeps in it, and be able to trigger a different one off anytime you want, is really, really amazing. So that was how clip envelopes work. Anybody have a quick question about just that? Yeah.
The curved envelopes that they're coming out with, can you do that in the clips or no?
Here in clip envelopes?
Yeah.
So let's have a look at the envelope view again. And let's pick one that has some envelopes in it still. Oh, I recorded over my envelopes. This guy still has envelopes in it. So if we want to do a curvy, oh, let's not do it to this one. You won't be able to hear what I'm saying. We'll come over here to this guy, and let's pick a somewhat normal thing to affect. Like maybe we want to affect the volume, and we could draw in some volume changes. And There you go. So all you have to do is create a value that would normally be a linear change like this, and go near it, and hit the Option key, and you get this little groovy curve next to your mouse, and it lets you curve your automation. So that's going to come in really handy. So let me talk just a little bit about what I was not expecting in Live 9 and what is really, really amazing, and I think actually ties in really well to what Ethan was talking about earlier. So what I like to do with Live is, and really with all my music, is I find that I have my best ideas when I'm not in the studio. For me, like, my best ideas are normally when I'm walking down the street and I'm nowhere near a computer, and I've tried to like download iPhone apps and try to make music on the train and stuff like that, and I keep like bumping into people. So what I normally end up doing is I just get my iPhone out and I put like the microphone on and I just try to like sing the melody or hum the bass line or beatbox out a beat and just try to catch those ideas. And I've started using a really cool service called Evernote that automatically takes any of your recordings and just puts them right up on the internet and syncs them back to your computer in the studio, so that I can be walking down the street and get an idea for a bass line, pull my phone out, hum the bass line, and when I get home, the bass line the recording of that is already on my computer. And so when Ableton announced Live 9, I was really excited to see that I have a much more interesting way of using that material now. So normally I would be walking down the street and I would get like an idea for a beat, and I would probably like try to beatbox that out. So let me see if I can do that here. So now that I have this beat, and let's get rid of that, because I recorded the clip automation that I wasn't intending to record. There we go. So this is not really particularly in time, and it's definitely not in time with the session. So what I can do is just select this first hit and say set 111 here, and I can tell it to warp from here, and I'm probably going to be at a really, really different tempo. Oh, wow. That's surprisingly good. So let's get that loop looped. Okay, cool. So they added this really, really, really cool idea. They added this tool where you can take this and turn it into MIDI. And just like Ethan was talking about, spending a lot of time transcribing out the elements of that, now you can actually right-click on it and say, convert drums to new MIDI track. And it's actually going to look at the beat that I just beatboxed, and it's going to do its best to figure out where all the downbeats are and generate MIDI that would play that beat. And again, I like to stress that this is a beta, and that this is also kind of an inexact science. But I so far have been very impressed with how well it's done. So let me just play the loop along with the original beat here. So it's not quite perfect. It's pretty close. There's a couple of hats here that probably don't need to be here. I could go in and I could delete some of these and make this start to get a little closer to the beat that I want. And I thought that was really, really cool. And then I realized that you could also do it with melodies. Because I'm actually pretty good at getting a rhythmic idea out these days. I've worked on it really, really hard. But a melody, I'm not so good at. So the idea that maybe I could like hum the bass line is really, really exciting. Let's see. I make no statement that this is in any way musically meaningful, but don't. That's really out of key. It has to have a pitch for it to guess a pitch. So again, I right-click on it, and I say convert melody to new MIDI track. And it's going to look at the material, and it's going to try and figure out what notes I'm playing. So it saved me a lot of that transcribing work. So let's see how well it did. Okay. So it actually didn't do too bad. If you hear how badly I sung it. So I gotta fix one note. And one thing that Ethan was really right about is hearing the songs that you love as like bad MIDI music, they never sound as inspiring as at all. Even if it's the right notes to the bass line, without that groove and without the sound of the track, it just doesn't feel the same. So the other thing, and I'm not gonna in any way try and sing like 3-part harmony up here, but it doesn't have to be monophonic material. So one of the first things I did was I thought, I'm gonna grab something with like a lot of chords in it and see how that sounds. And I was like, hey, let's see what it does. This will be really, really exciting, right? So you right click and you say convert harmony to new MIDI track. That is crazy. There might be a bum note in there, but I'll go through and fix it. That's fine. You just saved me hours of work. So it also works on drum beats. It's one thing to hear my voice. It's another thing to hear it convert drums, actual drums. So you can drag a sample in. This beat I've been playing all night is Daft Punk. And I don't think they would like me to release a song that uses their beat in it, but I can take the MIDI right out of it and extract it out. And as I said earlier, it's not always perfect. For some reason, I've noticed every now and then I lose my first beat here. But that's okay, I have a 2-bar loop. So if I go over here and use the second bar, and that's probably why it loses it, actually. It's right before the beginning of the bar. And so once I have it into MIDI, I can make it sound much more interesting. I can come over here to drums, and I can say, let's have like an 808. And that's got me a lot closer to that original tune. As a learning tool, as a way to be able to sit down and figure out what's happening in the music that you love, and have a richer appreciation for it and a better understanding of how to make your music the way you want it to be, this is an amazing tool. For me, suddenly all of the recordings I've made while walking through the supermarket, humming like a crazy person, are like really musically useful. I can go back to those, analyze all of them, and start to figure out what ideas I had in that moment. Okay, so there's a couple other things that I'm going to show really, really fast. They've added a few things to the MIDI editing features that I love. So you can now you can select a bunch of MIDI, and you can really easily come over here and say duplicate loop. And now my 1-bar loop is a 2-bar loop. I can do that again, and I end up with a 4-bar loop. So I can really, really quickly create longer pieces of music to perform over top of. The other thing you can do, and this is probably way more impressive to hear on the melody stuff, is that now you can quickly see how you're transposing your notes. You can come right over here to the note names, and you can see that you're starting on E0 up to D. So you could select all of this, and you could duplicate it out, and you could say maybe like just the last bar. Let's use that cool fold button we saw earlier. Do I have it all? Oh, no, I don't have it all. That's why. This is gonna get really, really, really not good, but and let's see, where's that melody of mine? That's nowhere near the right key. Sure.
Can you do the opposite? Can you take that harmony now and make it monophonic and create the bass off of that?
Well, the way you could do that is you could come right in here to the melody and grab the lower bit of the notes. And some of them are probably a little wrong, but let's see. Let's try it out. So I'm gonna make a copy. Option click and drag is like the best feature in the world. And let's go ahead.
No, what I was talking about was from the audio.
Oh, from the audio. Oh, let's try that. That's a great idea. Let's try that. So let's see. We're going to stop all this stuff, and we're going to hear this again. And let's see what it does when you do just melody on it. A beat in there. So sometimes it's a great way to just create ideas when you're kind of stuck and you're not really sure where you want to go next. Sometimes letting the computer take a guess, and when it gets the guess wrong is usually more interesting than when it gets the guess right. Yeah.
I don't know if you know the answer to this. When you're recording the audio in and you're converting it to like a monophonic thing, does it just assume that pitch is below like 150, that it's a bass line, or how does it know what instrument?
At the moment, it loads in the same instrument. At the moment, it loads up with the default instrument. Okay. Now, that's the same way that drum racks work in 7. When you go to create when you slice something to MIDI. I don't know if you guys know this. This is a really cool feature that's in 8 that you could go home and use today. That's really awesome. So here's this beat that I was playing with earlier. In 8, you can come in here, right-click, and you can say slice to new MIDI track. So it doesn't like figure out all the notes for you, but it takes it and cuts it up and loads it into a new track here. And instead of figuring out what all the drums are, it plays all the slices. So where this becomes really useful is now I've got the same beat happening, but it's playing out of a drum rack. So I've got all these slices individually. So if I want, I can So yeah, I can create a whole new beat out of that. Absolutely. Absolutely. So that's something really cool you can do in 8 right now. And you can do all this without stopping the music. Like, that's the one thing that always blows my mind is that, like, you show somebody this, and you have a beat playing, you have a song playing, and in the middle of the loop going, you slice it up, put it on a new track, arm it to record, and in the middle of your show, you create a whole new rhythm. So what I was really going to show really fast is that when it created this slice, it sliced this up and loaded it on a drum rack. And when it loaded it on a drum rack, it also has effects assigned to the drum rack. So I can do things like control the attack time of all the hits, or the decay and sustain, that I make these really short. If I want to do things like add a little shuffle by playing with the loop, or make this glitch out. And don't forget, you still have clip envelopes for all this. Okay, so these effects are actually a really specific set of effects here. And you can change which one, what loads when you slice this up. When I go to slice this drum and I say slice to MIDI, it actually gives me an option to choose which of these many slice presets I use. So I'm really sure that by the time 9 is out, you will be able to convert something to a melody and decide whether or not that melody should be a bass instrument or a really high-pitched. Or whatever else you want. Yes. That's a good question. I don't know. It'll be exciting to see what that does at the end of the beta. It'll probably be like a simpler, I would guess, but I don't know. Yeah. The question is, can you create like a chord rack in the drum with the drums when you create the drums? Right. When you create all the harmony, so you can change. you can... Right. Right. Well, that's a really interesting idea, and that is not something that I have tried yet, but that's a really interesting idea. So if you're not in key, if, like, for example, when I hummed this this line earlier, that was really, really not in key. Where was it? So if I convert this to a new melody, there is a really cool device that already exists in live under MIDI effects that allows you to restrict what notes you play. If I drag this scale device down here, then I can actually specify exactly which notes I'm allowed to play ahead of time. So that might be a really good solution. If you know what key you're in, automatically be able to drop a scale in there and correct those notes. So yeah, it's like an idea machine. What else was really cool? There's probably tons of questions. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's an interesting idea. If you have a bunch of automation, for one thing, so if I have like a volume automation here that does like this, and I select it, can I say copy and come over here to this and paste? Probably not. No, hey, there we go. There you go. That could be really interesting. Sure. So I would feel really bad if I didn't mention... That's okay. If I didn't mention the couple of the other really cool MIDI editing effects in here, because this is the kind of stuff that, like, you really... It doesn't, like, sound exciting in a review, and then you try and use it and you realize how quickly it's going to change the way you work. So I have this melody playing. You can go in at any time and select elements of it and say reverse the MIDI. And you start to do things like use that along with duplicate loop. And you start creating whole new patterns, whole new ideas. So the other thing you get reverse. You also get inverse, where it's actually going to flip it vertically and horizontal. Vertically. I would never have thought to try this. The other one I like is this legato button has been added, which is automatically going to make even really staccato notes drawn out. So even if I have really short notes here, if I choose legato on, ooh, that's really short. So yeah, that's the another nice one here, I guess, would be how long did did it make that? Oh, it made it to the next note. It's legato. So a couple of other cool things here would be that you can now double and have the tempo of it. So with one click, or maybe you want to go the other way. So all these tools really end up allowing you all these options to have new moments of inspiration, new ideas while you're working in the studio. Yeah. Thank you. Oh, one more thing, by the way. Hank was awesome in thanking the video guys that worked on this. It's the crazy thing for me is to see that all the people that have been up here have been showing off this wild stuff, and the guys back there are like doing this equally crazy ballet of like 5 cameras and a live switcher and live effects and all kinds of stuff, and like no one knows. The guys at home know. Okay, thank you guys.
Cool. Thomas Piper, everybody, from the People's Republic of Sound.
Hello. Hello. All right. All right. Getting a little feedback. Just move out the way. Just move out the way. All right. All right. All right. So what I'm going to do for you guys today is I'm going to run through a song and run through some visuals at the same time. So basically, this is a one-man kind of show. Let me turn off the delay. All right, so I'm using 2 programs. I'm using Ableton and Resolume Arena. I guess you guys can see that at the top. All right, so I'm going to run through the song first and let you guys know how I did it afterwards, okay? Woo. Yeah. All right. Unplug. Hey. Yeah. Right. Information overload. Before I crash, I need to let go. A virus in my mind, corrupting my heart, my files of life. Yeah, the machine in me has seen too much, needs time to breathe. Yeah, before I come undone, before life loses all of its fun, I must unplug. I must unplug. Yeah, I must unplug. I need to unplug. These cables hold me down like chains. Ooh, attached to the world. Your true power comes from another plane. Connected to a life that I cannot escape. Ooh, I'm charged, ready to roll. Disconnect, time to get away. I must unplug. Ooh, I must unplug. Hello. All right, so I'm gonna break that down for you guys. Let me switch. Yeah, I could actually, yeah, now I could use that mic. Let me turn this off. Hey, how you guys doing? All right, I gotta find my mouse. All right, so I'm just gonna switch the displays so guys aren't lost. Arrangement. Display mirror. Let's see. Escape. Oh no. Okay. Hold on. Yeah. All right, you know what? Let me quit out real quick. It's all the same. All right, so I'm going to do it this way because I don't want to mess around. All right, so basically what I have as a setup, if you look, is the track over here, drums, bass, background vocals, keys. Very simple, just loops going. My vocal, if you look here, yeah, is running through my duet. And so if you, let me just show you. So these are my vocal chain. The beauty of this setup is like if you're a vocalist, a lot of times you go to a venue and you never know what your sound's gonna be like. You never know what EQ, and you want it to sound like the record. I can literally pull the EQ from the record, pull the same plugins from the record, and kind of have a general idea about the sound. The other thing I can do also is I can record my performance. So when you're rehearsing, I can hit record and see the performance, listen to the performance back exactly how it came back. I can hear the levels, the monitors, and all that stuff. So I have two keyboards here, and I'm going to switch mics again. All right, I got two keyboards. One is just doing simple repeats on artillery. So I go, yo, 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 yeah, 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 right? So, and artillery's locked onto the LPK, and where's that? And that's right here, the one that I just highlighted, okay? I also have some effects that go there. So that's distortion and like a filter delay thingy. So that's what's going on there. The next track is for my other song, and then right here is a massive. You guys, how many people use massive? Good, all right, massive, great. So basically the vocoder, that's your Ableton vocoder, is getting audio from massive. And I'm playing massive from this keyboard that allows me to do the vocal. So that's what lets me do the vocoder part. And of course I have to turn the button turned on here. All right? And then I'm just gonna show these other things for those of you who are vocalists. I have a monitor for the house. So in my ear, I'm actually hearing myself sing. So a lot of times you do a DJ set and there's just like this, where there's two speakers and no monitors. DJs are happy with that because they have headphones. Singers, if there's no monitors, you end up yelling all night. So I can actually hear myself through that monitor, and I can also send that to the house engineer so that he gets a separate feed of a vocal. So that kills two birds with one stone, and it really works really well. So at least I have, and what I heard at rehearsal is generally what I'm gonna hear out. So that's what makes a really good thing there. Okay, my master fader has a limiter on it. Maybe I shouldn't have done that, but I did that anyway to give it a little extra punch. Okay, now, Resolume. How many people use Resolume? Okay, great. So what I have here is all the clips that you saw that we're playing. I'm gonna play a clip. Yeah. I have it set up that if I do an effect, it's all locked into Resolume, right? Stop it. So I just wanted to show you the basics of what's going on with Resolume here. Now, I'm setting this up two ways. This track here corresponds to my clips in Resolume. I'll show you the clips. So that track is sending note data to each clip. Column 1 would be C, D, E, on. So, and I can trigger those clips in Ableton, okay? So, switch around. So basically, I can trigger those clips in Ableton, boom, boom, and also sequence them. So when I play a clip, do it that way, it knows. So I'll give you an example. I'm going to show you what's going on. Again, you can see what I did. I don't know if you can see the clips moving, kind of. Let's see if it's doing it. Anyway, I don't know if it's doing it, but. And I'll show you how it's mapped real quickly. See if it does it. Okay, MIDI composition map. And if you see those, see the yellow ones up there, it says C1, D1. Those are the notes that are going back to that it knows C1 on Ableton. So when you hit C on Ableton, it actually triggers the clip. Oops, I gotta plug in. Hey, where'd it go? Okay, so that's the basics for that. All right, so the beauty of this is that if you're one person, you don't have to have a video guy with you. You can get a projector, set it up, and have your visuals running, as well as your music, and have it all planned out. Those visuals, I just did a bunch of time lapses. I went out in the cold and did time lapses, and that's how that works. And then I have some video footage as well. Okay, then how did you saw before, I was able to map an effect over the video when I turned the knob on the APC. So what I use is Max for Live, and it's a patch. And that patch, I'm going to point to it. See right there, it says Resolume Dispatcher. It's using OSC. How many people know what OSC is? OSC is something that Ableton should have. OSC is it's like the new MIDI. And for those of you who don't know, it's the easiest way to do it. And you can tell things directly how to get, you can map things directly. It's a lot easier. There's infinite things. It's not like all these control messages and all stuff. It's just text. So this is sending data to Resolume, and Resolume is very high tech, and it has OSC built in. And here's OSC. And when you click on something on OSC, see if it does it, you get a little address here. It says composition video effect. You see that over there? And so I can now map parameters using OSC. I use another patch here. And if you see, it says parameter forwarder. See that? It's gonna so these are the macros, right? It's gonna forward data from those macros to Resolume. One of the reasons, now you might say, well, why did you do that? the APC doesn't give you all its MIDI notes and stuff. So then you find yourself like, how do it wouldn't recognize it because the APC doesn't give it up. And you would have to use this thing called a Bohm's translator. Yeah, and that just was just too much work. So I used this and it was simple. You just type in that address that you saw, tell it macro, these are the macros. Now you can do multiple things. So that macro has the filter effect. It also has the video filter effect. And so it allowed me to do both of those things without using MIDI, because it was just impossible to get the MIDI data from the APC. One other thing I wanted to show, I actually took this off, sorry. But I use a thing called Live Clip Chopper, but I had too much gear and I didn't want to bring in a launch pad, which would allow me to, does anybody know what MLR is? Okay, Live Clip Chopper would let me kind of do MLR style loops. And you can check on my website, thomaspiperjr.com, and you'll see me kind of break down MLR and how to use a MLR style device on Ableton. So I couldn't do that because it just was too much stuff here. So there's one other thing. Oh, the other thing that it allows you to do, and I hope this works. Let's see if this works. Oh, let's turn it back. There you go. Hold on, I'm gonna just restart. Oh, let me get out the map mode. Maybe that'll do it. I'm gonna quit. Maybe I'm having issues. Do you really want to quit? Yes. All right, let me show you. I'm gonna restart. Of course, it was working great at home. Okay. All right, let's see if it does it. All right, the other thing it lets you to do is sync a music video as well. Like, I'm trying to show you applications. So I shot this video, and I can sync this video to what I'm doing live. So now with these cameras where people have, 7Ds and you can shoot your own stuff, I could, love ain't right. See, I can sing along with me and have that in the background, all synced together. So I shoot a bunch of videos. Girls continue the innocent ball for freedom. You know what I'm saying? So it allows me to now, if you go out there with your video camera and you shoot multiple videos, you can now have them all synced up to your set. And how I did that, I'm just gonna do that, explain that real quickly. Make sure when you're in Final Cut or whatever you use, Premiere, that you export right at the beginning, same tempo, pop it in, boom, hit start, same way, and it works. Yes? Oh, maybe later, I don't know. But thanks. But you know what I mean? And it allows you to sync all those things together. So it's a great tool for the new technologies, because we all can shoot video, we all can do stuff now. So now you can integrate. For me, I'm a photographer and a cinematographer, so I wanted to integrate the whole thing. Yes? Right. Right. Yeah, yeah. Oh, okay. Resolume has a codec. It's called DVX. It's on the site, and but nobody can ever find it, right? I went through. I was like, why come this is not playing? And I encoded, and then you put it into your QuickTime, but not QuickTime the new player, QuickTime 7 Pro. Then you go to QuickTime 7 Pro, and you pick your. It's great to know video because you kind of know where all those things are, and then you encode it with that. It'll still be a .mov, but it'll be encoded in that way, and then Resolume will see it. You could just drag and drop it. And like, I'm pushing it on this system. My latency on this was 200 because of Resolume. What I advise people to do is use two computers. You know, I did one because I wasn't sure about, how to do the other way, but use 2 computers. It sends MIDI information. The beauty of, I want to show you one other thing, the beauty of OSC, okay? OSC will send to addresses. So you could have another computer and you can send OSC data. Also, what this patch does is you could put clips in. So you could go, okay, I put a clip in Ableton, clip 1, it will know that that's clip 1 in Resolume. And it will trigger it every time you trigger a clip. The reason I didn't do that is because I wanted the ability to hit MIDI if I really wanted to, which I didn't do. But I felt like I had more leeway. I could go boom, 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 and the video could go boom, 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 boom. You know what I mean? So it works better that way. So that's very important. And I can't stress enough, for vocalists, a lot of you guys are producers, when you take things out, it's great to send it out in different stems, what we would call stems, but give them different outs so the house can get it and affect it and do what they want to do, and you can get a good sound. It seems so simple, but I don't see a lot of people doing that. They kind of just, well, I'm giving you the whole feed, or you can get things done that way. I think is that all I wanted to go through? Yep, that's it. So I just wanted to show you that. Any questions? Any more questions? Or yes. Okay. Okay, well, you would project the images with a projector. Now, you have 2 choices. Buy your own projector, right? Hope that you have some sort of backline that you can get a projector. And that would be the best, or I would try to buy a projector, rent a projector. There's a lot of ways, borrow one from the school, they have projectors. That's the way you would do it for live, for a show. That's your best bet. That's what this is meant to be. But a lot of venues have projectors now, too. Yeah, but a lot of, I do know more and more venues because of dance music having projectors a lot, that they have what's that thing called? A screen, so they'll have that. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't really worry about it, but if you don't, just get a screen. A sheet, something white, You can also projection map, which is a whole nother beast. And I don't know if you guys seen Amon Tobin or, Flying Lotus. That's a whole nother thing. But the beauty of that is if you have the time, you could do that yourself if you really wanted to, So, any more questions or? Yes. I'm triggering everything in Resolume. So there's not a sync. I don't have the sync tab locked in. So I send the MIDI data out. That's why I'm using pieces of, some people just use the MIDI part, and some people use the OSC part. I'm using the OSC and the MIDI part. So I'm using the OSC for what I think it does the OSC better for, and I'm using the MIDI part, so I don't have to sync. I don't even have to program anything in Resolume at all. Right, there is. Yeah, it could do that, and it could also send it from the BPM, because you already have the BPM, so the BPM is there. My thing is, if you don't have a lot of things locked up together, the less you can have, the less that can go wrong. So just keep it simple. If you need it, you need it. Yes. Well, Resolume won't let you do this, like real time. Final Cut, sorry. Final Cut won't let you do real time. So Resolume's a lot like, almost like an Ableton in a way for video. You can affect things real time and sync things together, whereas Final Cut will just, it's just really for editing. It's more like, I don't know, Pro Tools in a way. Even though Ableton is like Pro Tools too, this is the beauty of Ableton, it does both. So it lets you go out and play live. And I think that's what this whole thing is about, trying to play live and have control over what you do. Oh, yes. You can do some of that too, but I find that all the effects and all that stuff, like you could put video clips in Ableton and have that running and sending it out, but the control of it over MIDI and OSC and the video effects, Resolume just has more, and the layers. Like I don't know if you guys saw it said unplug. That I took that from. I just put some text from After Effects and just made that another layer and just dumped it in. You know, little things like that. It's just easier. And when you want to do more stuff like, you know, like I want to do projection mapping sometime, you can't do that in Ableton. At least not yet. Or maybe you could do it in Max Live, I don't know. Yeah. Okay, that's it. Oh, one more. It was I did it in After Effects, but I exported it as a Flash file. It likes Flash. You don't get as many jaggies in Flash. It was just the easiest way to do it, and then it was controlling I could control with a keyboard. Yeah, so it takes that. Yes. I want to say it's on the Ableton, Resolume site. It's on the Resolume site. You pull it up, and there's no real tutorial. Maybe I should do that. But yeah, but it's self-explanatory. Just drop it on. In fact, there is a tutorial. Just drop it on the master fader or wherever you want to do it, and it works really well. Okay. Oh. Sorry.
Give it up for Thomas Piper, y'all. Well, that's going to conclude our night for tonight, and I want to thank everybody for coming out.